Hey folks, well, I'm lagging a little bit in terms of breaking news, but if you think back to April of 2023, when Tucker Carlson's show on Fox News was canceled, that was a major breaking story at the time. So in retrospective, I thought, well, it might be interesting to look back at his horoscope, see what made him who he was or is. Look at the major planetary periods, the dashas that might have influenced what happened to him, and also take a little look into the future to see what might happen next. So Tucker Carlson really needs no introduction, certainly not in America anyway, where he was one of the most outspoken voices in American media. And he held down a prime time slot on Fox News for many, many years. And he achieved a popularity that exceeded that of Bill O'Reilly and Sean Hannity, two other conservative pundits. Now, Carlson's been called a paleo-conservative because he is so far to the right. He was in his day, quite a supporter of Donald Trump and the Republican cause, and is constantly attacking the Democrats and the left in general. He's a very caustic wit, obviously very sharp, very strong opinions, and so really a voice to be reckoned with. So let's have a look at his horoscope and see what makes this guy tick. So here is Tucker Carlson's horoscope. Note the time here, 10:07 in San Francisco on the 16th of May 1969. Take a look at the degree on the ascendant, 047 of Cancer. So one could very well speculate, what if he'd been born just 3 or 4 minutes earlier? He would have had a Gemini rising. Wouldn't that have made more sense for a guy who's so much in the media? Well, let's have a look at this and see what we see as a consequence of a Cancer rising. So first things first, we always look for yogas. So, the thing that I spot right away is a Raja Yoga. This takes place courtesy of Venus, Lord of the fourth, a Kendra, in mutual aspect to Jupiter, Lord of the ninth, a Trikona. So there is your key combination for a Raja Yoga. Lords of 4 and 9 in mutual aspect. Furthermore, they are both strong. Venus is exalted, Jupiter is retrograde, therefore brighter than usual. Okay, and they lie on the axis of the 3rd and 9th houses. Third is about writing, for instance, and other artistry and acquired skills. 9th house is, mass media and publications and so on. So far, this fits the bill. Let's see what else he's got going on. I can't help but notice immediately that Venus is in a Trikona with Rahu. Now, when that happens, we want to take note. What does Venus rule? Well, as it happens, Venus rules the 4th house. So when you get Lord of a Kendra in a Trikona with one of the nodes, you have a nodal version of a Raja Yoga. So here's the logic. Rahu effectively acts as a proxy for Jupiter. It's sign dispositor. So it's as if Jupiter and Venus were in the same place. And then you get another Raja Yoga, similar to what I just previously discussed, where Venus and Jupiter were opposing each other or in mutual aspect. So, but this comes now courtesy of Rahu. So the rule is if you have a trinal lord in a Kendra with a node, nodal Raja Yoga can be formed. In this case, we have a Kendra lord in a Trikona with a node. And so this is another valid Raja Yoga. Again, strong because Venus is exalted. Then we have a couple lesser varieties, what some people call Raja Yogas, but are more accurately termed dharma-karma-adhipati yogas. They often involve the very same houses, Sorry, not the same houses. Well, Kendras and Triconas, but a lesser variety of those. So here's an example. The moon is the ascendant lord, and the ascendant lord can function as either a Kendra or a Trikona lord, because the first house does have that role. So notice this, moon and Mars are in mutual aspect. Now, Mars is the lord of the fifth house, which it occupies, that's a Trikona, and it is also lord of the 10th house. Now, moon can combine with Mars. Here, Mars is obviously in a trine and owns that trine, so it'll act as a Trikona lord, and the moon can act as a Kendra lord, and then you've got moon, Mars in Sambandha, acting to create a dharma-karma-adhipati yoga involving lords of 1 and 5. Then you can look at Mars' other role is owning a Kendra, which it does, and the moon Mars mutual aspect still applies, but now you can treat the moon, the ascendant, the first house, as a Trikona, which it is as well. 1, 5, and 9 are the Trikonas. So the moon is kind of a switch hitter. The ascendant lord is a switch hitter and can go either way, functioning as a Kendra lord or a Trikona lord. So in this instance, we're using it both ways. So here, moon is acting as a Trikona lord in mutual aspect to Mars, which is legitimately a Kendra lord as well. So we have two dharma-karma-adhipati yogas formed by this moon-Mars mutual aspect. It's a relatively strong yoga. The moon is dark, but Mars enjoys double strength. It's Swarashi in its own sign, and it's retrograde, therefore brighter than normal. So this is actually quite a strong pair of yogas. Aside from that, Moon and Mars, whether they're in conjunction or mutual aspect, also forms a chandra-mangala yoga. And this is fairly strong as well too. Mars enjoys double strength as noted. Moon, although it's dark, is in Taurus, therefore exalted. So this is a pretty powerful chandra-mangala yoga as well. Now, chandra-mangala yoga is one of the basic wealth yogas, and we'll get more into aspects of Carlson's earning potential and his net worth in a moment. But just Moon and Mars, indicate an enterprising individual, kind of the opposite of a couch potato. And so the assumption is that they'll do something in life, that makes a go of things. So back to the dharma-karma-adhipati yogas that are formed here with Moon and Mars. Mars is in the fifth house. That's the place of critical thinking. And what Mars is there, they say with Mars in the fifth house, Mars is omnivorous in terms of information and is a quick study and can learn a lot of stuff really fast. And he does seem to have that kind of mind. Also a very sharp mind as well too. Critical, caustic, abrasive, combative, competitive, all those adjectives. Add that to his sort of systemic sexism, racism, xenophobia. It makes for a pretty, entertaining but toxic mix for mainstream television. Mutual aspect between the Moon and Mars occurs in the 5th and in the 11th. And the 11th is, the social platform, society, culture in general, and, for sure, political issues. We've covered Raja Yoga. He's got a couple of those. Dharma-karma-adhipati yogas. He's got a couple of those. He's got a chandra-mangala yoga, a basic wealth yoga. What about other dhana yogas, like your classic wealth yogas? So the rule for that is you need a combination of a money lord. That would be Sun, lord of the 2nd, or Venus, lord of the 11th. One or the other of those money lords must combine with one of the Trikona lords. The Trikona lords for Cancer ascendant are the Moon ruling the 1st, Mars ruling the 5th, or Jupiter ruling the 9th. So let's see what we've got going here. Well, Moon and Sun, lord of 1 and 2, are together in the 11th house. So that's one Dana yoga formed right there. Then we also have Sun, lord of the 2nd, and Mars, Lord of the fifth, a money lord and a Trikona lord, Sun and Mars by mutual aspect. That is another Dana Yoga there. And then there's another one here with, we're done with Sun as a money lord. Let's move to Venus, Lord of the 11th, as another money lord. What does it combine with? Only one other planet, Jupiter. Is Jupiter a trinal lord? Yes, it is. Jupiter is Lord of a Trikona. So now you have Venus and Jupiter in mutual aspect. Basically create a Dana Yoga involving Lord of a Trikona, Jupiter, and Lord of a money house, Venus. Bingo. More so, these two are very powerful. Just like that Raja Yoga was powerful by virtue of their dignities or avastas, Venus exalted, Jupiter bright during its retrogression period, and there's a powerful sambandha between these two as well. Sambandha is formed, when two planets are in association, mutual aspect, parivarna, or when a pair are in aspect. Sometimes it's just a unilateral aspect, sometimes it's a mutual aspect, but one or the other of those grahas disposes the other, meaning it's the sign dispositor. And this is the case right here. Jupiter disposes Venus because Jupiter rules Pisces, in which Venus is resident. So this is a very powerful yoga and a very strong bond. And let's be reminded now, these two, Jupiter and Venus, form a powerful Raja Yoga, and they also form a powerful Dana Yoga. As if we needed more evidence of Carlson's wit and cutting, mental attributes, Sun and Mercury together form, the basis for a budhaditya yoga, so long as they occupy or aspect either the first house or the fifth. In this case, Sun and Mercury are together and they both aspect the fifth house. So this is a legitimate budhaditya yoga. It indicates a sharp mind, somebody who is fairly clever, could be a good student, can analyze things, and typically a pretty good communicator as well. Okay, so we've just gone through a roster of, the most significant and most evident yogas in Tucker Carlson's chart. And this is something, that everybody should, gain a good vocabulary in if you want to, analyze Jyotish. Oh, one thing I neglected to mention, Saturn is left all alone here, the only planet in a Kendra, and it's debilitated. This is probably some of the logical origins for the notion of a conservative, because Saturn is very much a conservative, somebody who harkens back to the past, wants to keep things as they were, does not want to change. It's kind of stubborn as heck. Here Saturn is debilitated in the 10th house, which only sort of aggravates its sort of, entrenched position. Now, there's an analysis, which I won't go into here, to determine whether Saturn is Nichabanga. As it turns out, yes, it does achieve Nichabanga, but that's it, that's all. Because Saturn is alone and isolated, it forms no bond with any other graha in the horoscope. Therefore, it forms no yoga. So this does not create Nichabanga yoga, never mind Nichabanga Raja yoga. It's simply Nichabanga Saturn. Now, Saturn is Lord of the 7th and the 8th in the 10th. So, it's good for mass media and all, especially because Saturn aspects its own 7th. As far as its rulership of the 8th, well, that can be a bit problematic. And, Lord of the 8th debilitated in the 10th can suggest reversals in career. More on this in a moment. Okay, let's move on to the dashas and bhuktis. So Tucker Carlson ran his Mars dasha in the years 1981 to 1988. So Mars is a powerful graha in the 5th house. The 5th house is the application of the mind. It's one of the places for studies and students and, academic, capacity. So it was during this era that he was in private school and then university. When he graduated, he moved into journalism. His father was what we call a gonzo journalist who, who took on lots of contentious subjects and, did quite a bit of, saber rattling, if we might call it that, in the newspaper world and radio and television as well too. And Tucker seems to have been inspired by that, and he too, cut his teeth in print media. He wrote for, Slate and Esquire and the Daily Beast and the New York Times. And basically established, quite a good reputation for himself in that era. So this is all during the period of Rahu. Then in Jupiter Dasha, he was hired by Fox News and, started doing reporting for them on lots of background work and minor spots. But then in Jupiter Dasha, Venus Bhukti, he was given his own slot. I think it was in November, maybe 2016 or thereabouts. So take note of this. When he was elevated to that status, his own primetime slot in Fox News, he was running the Dasha and Bhukti lords that are involved in this highly esteemed Raja Yoga and Dana Yoga as well. So during Jupiter Dasha, Venus Bhukti, arguably two of the best positioned, grahas in this horoscope that bring on board the effects of two stellar yogas, Raja Yoga and Adana Yoga. So from that point on, he quickly acquired a very loyal viewership, in the millions. And he quickly eclipsed Bill O'Reilly and Sean Hannity, who were, the old guard, as it were. Certainly Bill O'Reilly, we could call him that. Sean Hannity was still working on his career, but an up-and-comer. But Carlson quickly overtook him and then went on to even more pronounced visibility. He became really the voice of Fox News, and was voicing a lot of very strong opinions and forwarding conspiracy theories and all the rest, especially during the Trump era, and especially in the aftermath of the Trump era. And then along came Saturn Dasha. Now, as you might expect, Saturn Dasha would not bring good things. I mean, first and foremost, it is a debilitated graha, the only graha in a Kendra, in the 10th house, no less, reflecting upon career. It's a malefic, and it's a kind of, when malefics are debilitated, they're a little bit of, out of control and hard to predict what will happen to them, but typically nothing much good. Meanwhile, Saturn is also the Lord of the 8th in the 10th, which, implies at least some potential reversal in career. So what happened, and this is partly of his own making, he had been, bad-mouthing some of the Fox News management. He had also, got involved in the Dominion voting systems debate and basically propagated, some misinformation. And, there was some other stuff in the background as well, too, that finally the Fox network management decided his time had come for him to go. So he was dismissed from his role. And quickly established his own channel under the revamped Twitter sphere, basically Tucker on Twitter. So it remains to be seen whether he's going to enjoy the same kind of clout as he had on Fox. I suspect no, because we are in the period of Saturn. Saturn is a bit of a lead ceiling over one's career, especially in the 10th house, being debilitated, malefic, and also Lord of the 8th. I think his time in the sun has come and gone, and although he may continue to be a fixture for quite a while, I mean, let's face it, he is relatively young. He's only in his 50s, so he could be around for quite a while. But I think his better days are behind him. So we'll see what goes on in the future. Okay, so in analyzing that horoscope of Tucker Carlson, I did not, well, I did on my own. I didn't do it with you. I did not delineate the consequences of giving him a Gemini ascendant, which, superficially might seem attractive because the guy's such a motor mouth, a very good speaker. But if you do this on your own, you will quickly find out that there's a world of difference between those two horoscopes. If you go to a Gemini ascendant, he will retain those two Raja Yogas, one involving Venus and Jupiter, and the other involving the nodes, in order to create one of the nodal Raja Yogas. But he loses two dharma-karma-adhipati yogas, which fall away. They don't exist in the Gemini rising horoscope. With the Cancer rising, he had three Dhana yogas. With the Gemini rising, there are only two Dhana yogas. With Cancer rising, there was a budhaditya yoga, again, indicative of a pretty sharp mind. With the Gemini ascendant, that budhaditya yoga disappears. Furthermore, Saturn is no longer in the career 10th, but the 11th. And the whole sequence of dashas pretty much falls apart compared to the way it holds up quite elegantly and classically, we could say, in the Cancer rising chart. So you can experiment with this on your own. And, it's the sort of thing that every Jyotishi has to face. When we see an ascendant that is either very late in a sign or very early in a sign. And it's my experience, that true birth times are probably a little bit earlier than that which was declared by, the medical doctor who delivered the child. So usually we're backing up in time and going to an earlier time. So it's the horoscope like Tucker Carlson's that is the most worrisome, very early degree, and good chances that he could have been born earlier than that, which would bump it back into the previous sign. Anyway, I do believe that is not the case with his birth, and the seeming exactitude of the time 10:07 seems to be validated in the horoscope. Anyway, this is something that we should always be prepared to deal with when we've got early or late degrees rising. An examination of the yogas, and then a cross-checking with the dasha sequence to see if it makes sense in terms of life events is, pretty much critical activity that we all have to engage in. Good luck with your own efforts. Okay, bye.